we have an interesting one today. It's a Škoda where you can't take the key out. There we go. So there's something not right. Yeah, can't turn it now. Can't put it back in the on position. So you can wind up with this in either way, where it gets stuck in there and you can't take it out, or where you can't turn it on. While we're getting this out easily, what we'll do is we'll leave the key out because it just makes it a little bit easier to get this off. But if you can't get your key out, you'll still be able to remove all of this. So we're going to do a little bit of investigation. It's most likely either going to be the lock is stuck, or it is the steering lock mechanism, which is just behind this, which is going to be getting stuck. So it'll be one or the other. It's hard to say now before we actually remove this barrel, and then we can get a feel for it outside of the car, and then we'll go from there. So today we are going to remove pretty much everything here, steering wheel and all. So we just want to disconnect the battery so that we can discharge the capacitors for the airbags so they don't go off in our face. The patient is asleep. Just going to remove this upper piece of cowling here. Same on the other side, it just pulls towards you. Now we can unclip this. There we go. They all just clip down, you just pull them up, very simple. So we've got a couple of little T25s here. One on this side. We have one on the other side, just there. They're not tight, you can get to them with just a standard little bit like I'm using here. And then just under the steering column we have another little T25 here. Not sure how well that comes across on camera, but it's basically just up there. Now we can now this is where it's different for you, or maybe for me, is I can remove my key at the moment. If you can't, you won't actually be able to remove this just yet. You will have to pull the steering wheel to do that, and have that problem. But I am going to remove the steering wheel anyway, just to show you how. So going behind the steering wheel, see this here? Just in here there's a little tab. So we want to get a screwdriver in here, and then we want to flick the tab, and then the front of the steering wheel, basically the airbag, or the bit that you might consider the horn, will pull forward. There's one on the bottom as well. So once you've popped out those two tabs, this should just come forward like that. Oh, look at that. A little bit of card in there. And then there's a little plug in here that we need to undo as well. So what we want to do is, there's a little white tab. We just want to pull back on the white tab like that. So you just pull that bit there, back, and then that's it, totally disconnected. And this is the hole in the steering wheel that we were prying in. This is the tab which catches a spring in the back of the airbag unit, and you just want to flick that down basically, and then you can pull it forward from this side. And it's these bits here that we pry on basically. So that's what clips in, and we just release it. Very simple mechanism. So to remove this centre bolt here, it is an M12 spline,
which is one of these little sockets. If you don't have an impact gun, no problem, just use a normal ratchet. I do have an impact gun, so of course I'm going to use it, because why struggle? But basically you can just grab hold of this with one arm, break it loose with the other arm, or if you're not strong enough, get a friend to hold the steering wheel for you while you break it loose. I don't find these cars to be particularly difficult to remove. But what we are going to do is, you see there's a little line here, center of the steering wheel. We're going to make a little punch mark just below it, so that we know where to put it back, because we definitely don't want to put it back in the wrong position. We want it to go on just as it came off. So I made a little mark. It is slightly off center, just a touch. But as long as I line it back up, I've taken a photo of it as well, as long as I make sure I line it back up exactly as it is right now, that'll be fine. So happy days. We will, now what we need to do is just pull the steering wheel off, give it a good wiggle, and hopefully not hit ourselves in the face. Ah. That slid off so easily, that's crazy. Sometimes they really fight you, but that was a piece of cake. So we've got a few little Torx 8 bolts that we want to undo. Don't know if I have to remove these ones here or not, or whether this whole assembly just unclips from the side of the clock spring. Speaking of clock springs, this thing here can move. See, it's got like a little ribbon in there. That's how it maintains electrical contact even though the wheel turns. You know, kind of like in your computer, you know, you might have ribbon cables on your motherboard or something. Yeah, don't turn that. So if it turns that way, just make sure you leave it in this position, because if you keep on winding it, you can do some damage to it, so don't do that. Two more on this side here. Okay, now I'll remove them all the way, I don't want to drop them. Just want to remove this little connector down here. Just push on the tab. There you go. It's kind of like spring loaded. Just fly out. Be careful though. Don't push on it real hard. It will come out without too much trouble. A little cable there for our lock. Just clipped in, just in here. Just pull that out. Okay. Tell me your secrets. You look like you just come down. See how one side, I'm prying it near the middle, but you see how one side is very eager to come loose? And then this side here, not so eager. You can see there's something in the middle there that's holding it. Ah, there it is, I see it. There's a little tab in here. I have to get something small to get in there. So there's a little tab in there, so just when you pry things, I mean, I've never taken one of these off, so I've got no idea how this thing comes apart. But when I pry that, I can see that it's levering here in the middle, and then I do the same thing on this side here, and I can see that it's still levering in the same point. So I know there's something here holding it on, so don't just like try and pry things off. You'll snap it, and then you'll be very upset with yourself because you've broken it. Yeah, okay, let's grab something. Using a piece of wire, going through that little hole there, I have successfully managed. This sunlight is doing my head in. I've successfully managed to lever that first part down, but it looks like there's a clip at the back as well. So we're going to have to contend with that next. So this one here goes up like that, and then you get your finger up here, and then you just push that tab in like that, and then it just falls out very easy. Not difficult. And we've got one more plug at the back with another safety tab. Boys love their safety tabs. There we go. Remove the clock spring. Remember, don't turn it. Put it up there out of the way where it's not going to get knocked or anything. Okay, now we have all of these. We just want to get to that really, don't we? Inspect. Maybe we should just remove the lock, because if it's just the lock that's broken, we don't really need to remove any of this. I kind of suspect that it's the actual, not the lock itself, but the cylinder behind it. The steering lock mechanism here I think is broken, not the lock itself, but we should test and verify, not guess. So these are dead easy to remove. You just flick up that little tab there, and then you push it forward at the same time, and you do that on both sides. There we go. There we go. That's off of there. Well, that's not fun. They're shear bolts. Getting more and more common these days, shear bolts are. They don't have a head basically, so we're going to have to get the drill out. What I will do, I think, there's a bolt there, and there's a bolt there, and I think if we drop that, the column might just come down enough so I can get the drill in there a little bit easier, because otherwise I think it's gonna, I don't think there's enough room, it's gonna hit that. Things have escalated. I have to pop the side cover off to get to a little torque screw there. Torque screw there. There's a torque screw here, there's another one down there. That is so that you can remove this lower bit. I can't remove mine completely because, well, some genius. Look at that for electrical work. Oh yeah. Just tuck it in behind the pin of a fuse. Unfused cabling in a car. What could go wrong? Anyway, I'm not here for that. Also, look at that nice melted bit of wire there. Ooh, nice. So there's been some bumblery going on with this. Not good stuff. But I had to do that so I could get to, there's two more bolts at the back of the column down there, another one on the other side, all 13s. I've just loosened them to drop this slightly, and now I can get the drill in on the top and drill a hole in the top of those shear bolts. So what we're going to do, we've drilled a little hole in the top, we're going to tap a Torx bit in there and then see if we can break it loose. Didn't go deep enough. So on the shorter one, the collar of this bottomed out on the casing before I could get deep enough. So we'll try a longer bit. Ta-da! There we go, in all of its majestical glory. So just get that out and then do the other side. So that's why you have to drill a hole in the end of it. Obviously there's no way you can grab that. So hence the need for all of the dropping of the column shenanigans. Just do the same thing on the other side. Be ready to catch your column. Not column, it's little, the column lock rather, is what that actually is. There we go. Oh, we've missed an electrical connector. It's like first day on the job, isn't it? Oh dear, it's how embarrassing. There we go. Depress the tab and just pull it out. And there we have it. Thankfully it's locked at the moment, which is good news for us because we can finally figure out what the heck's going on with it. So we'll just fit our new lock now, and obviously what we want to do is we want to turn the key around to the run position like we had it before. So you pop in your key, turn it all the way around, and so the bottom will look roughly like that. This is the bit that was broken on our old one, that spring-loaded bit. So now what we want to do is I'm going to just turn the inside of this with a screwdriver all the way around like that. So that's in the right position as well. And then we want to line up this with our indentation at the front. So just slide in our key. And that's that sorted. That did take me a couple of times just to get that all lined up in there right. So what you want to do now is just double check that obviously the key is working. So that's in the ignition on. Make sure it will turn to the start position, and then obviously make sure you can remove the key in and out easily. Make sure that's obviously locked in there good and tight, and that's it, she's away. Okay, so we can now put this back in the car, and I've got 2 bolts now to go in as replacements rather than putting those shear bolts again. You could put them back in if you didn't have anything else with the Torx bit you smashed into it, but no, I'd rather put in these instead. Slip this into here. Slip that side. Oh, put it in the wrong side. So it goes on like, which way do you come on? Let's go on. So it goes on like that. Lock on that side. So I think I did have it the right way. There we go. So there's like a couple of little tabs here. You can see this is what we were trying to get out earlier. Little tabs here. You can put a screwdriver through the front side, flick that out, and then it will drop out. And then same on the other side, it just clips in just in there. And then apart from that, I think that there's another little indent here that it clips into. Now we can slide it back on. Had I realised that slid off as easily as it did, there was actually no need to drop the column to unbolt that, but hey ho. I don't know what I was thinking there. Obviously I did actually need to drop the column anyway to get access in there with my tools, because there's a hole here which is part of the steering column, the upper part of the steering column here. So I have to line up. Good, that's one. It's clipped in as well, so I'm not going to worry with any thread lock or anything. I don't think it's going to go anywhere. Just get a ratchet to give these a little snug down. That'll do. Just slip these back on. Oh, there we go, clipped in. So they just literally push in. There's 2 little grooves here. One here, one here. Pushes in, click, job done. So we want to clip this back in now, and you can remember that there goes up into that one. That there goes up into this one here. So we'll line those both up. See the back there, and then the front, and then push it on, up and into place. Bob's your uncle. Might as well plug that back in while we are in the territory. Boom. Is that all back up there like it's meant to be? Yeah, I think so. Feels a little bit loosey-goosey, but I can't exactly remember how tight it was before. Let's make the assumption that that's fine. Whoops. We did a boob. Gotta plug that in first, didn't we? Get that plugged in. Boink. And then we can tuck that out of the way. Now we can put that in. And now we can raise up the front. Boom. Now it fitteth properly. We do some silly things sometimes. Don't we? See, I've been waiting for this part for like well over a week, and the trouble with that is that you start to forget where everything went or where everything came from. So you just end up keep putting things on and then scratching your head for a second like, what went on next? Sorry, I've forgotten. And then you kind of have to keep removing things and putting things back on.
get that clipped on there. Sorted. Well, I'm definitely the master of removing things that don't need to be removed. We've got some of these little torque screws I took out earlier in the video from these little stalks. Obviously they don't need to be removed because they just unclip. So that was my mistake. So we'll get those back in. And I'll go around and do the others. Now we line up the steering wheel with our mark that we made earlier. Nope, that ain't right. That is right. Sweet. Pop back in our super mega ultra awesome bolt. Has enough thread lock in there for the ages. That'll do. So now we just want to plug this back into there. Remember, it's got these little clips on it, so you pull it to remove it, but basically you just push it back in and it clips on. So you go on there that way, very nice. Very good. So I've tightened up the steering column again, just because. Now we just want to make sure our key still works. Yes, it do. Very nice. Everything is plugged in. We haven't reassembled everything yet, but before we bother with that, let's just make sure that the car does indeed start. So we've just got that connected there. No airbags went off. That was lovely. Now let's go and see if she'll start. I always get nervous about this. Perfect. She runs. And then that's it. Obviously just take her for a test drive, make sure everything's okay. Make sure stuff like your horn works. Oh, that's unusual. That was working a second ago. Let's just turn the ignition on. Yeah, it does work. Make sure all that goodness works as well. Very good. Make sure we can flash, put our full beams on, because we've disturbed all that, so we want to make sure that it's all working. So that's it, in case anybody was curious about how to change the key barrel in the little Škoda Octavia. Now you know.